My name is Stella, and I am a 34-year-old hairstylist. I am the chief stylist at the hair salon run by my husband Parker, who is 3 years older than me. We met through a mutual acquaintance, and I was drawn to his gentle and affable nature, so we got married 4 years ago. On the other hand, Parker's mother, Madeline, proudly raised him on her own after divorcing when Parker was in junior high. I respect her for that, but she still believes she has the final say in every decision in Parker's life. Because of this, when we decided to get married, my MIL imposed her opinions on everything, from the wedding ceremony, honeymoon, to the selection of our new home and its interiors. To be honest, I had my own vision for our wedding and honeymoon. However, when I expressed my opinion, she opposed it out of hand, and when Parker tried to intervene, she said, "Well, are you really going to stand up to me, the soon-to-be mother-in-law? You know the saying, pearls to swine. You don't need a wedding like that." What a joke. I can't imagine what the future holds for you if you start behaving like this now. I wonder how your parents trained you. Not only did she refuse to listen to me, she even dissed my parents. Honestly, it made me apprehensive about the future, and even my parents suggested reconsidering.
However, Parker apologized for his mother's interference, admitting it was rude, and passionately expressed his desire to build a happy home with me in front of my parents.
Seeing his sincerity, both my parents and I believed that even if conflicts arose with my MIL in the future, he would stand by my side, so we decided to go ahead with the marriage.
In the end, we complied with all of my MIL's wishes for the wedding and our home.
My mother advised sometimes you have to make sacrifices. Although you might have reservations, making her happy now might benefit you in the long run.
So I agreed, but now I deeply regret that decision made 4 years ago.
4 years later.
Stella, I'd like to discuss something about our business. What? I have a Chamber of Commerce meeting tonight, so I'm quite busy. Yesterday, it was a meeting with the local business association, and now this? Last week, you had dinners and get-togethers every night?
When exactly can we sit and talk?
Come on, these are all essential for our business, right? You don't seem cut out to be an entrepreneur's wife, Stella. Haha.
I'm not complaining, but with our business expanding to 3 salons now, it's only natural for me to want to discuss our operations, right?
Look, I've left the management of the salons to you, right? Your one strong point is your hairstyling skills, given you don't have much of an educational background or come from a notable family. It's a given that you should use that skill to boost our sales. So why do you expect me to handle it? Isn't that weird?
Oh, not again. Our salon business, which we started from scratch, now boasts 3 branches, and we are even considering opening a 4th by the end of the year. That was all very well, but at the same time that the business was growing steadily, and I was gaining popularity as a young manager, Parker began to look down on me more and more. It started with comments about my education, and then it escalated to mocking my appearance, clothing choices, and even comparing me unfavorably to stylists from rival salons. Moreover, if I put off doing something he asked or didn't respond to his texts right away, he'd give me the silent treatment. When this happens, he comes home late and leaves the meals I prepare untouched. He'd conspicuously order food delivery or grab a sandwich and coffee from a convenience store. What's worse, he'd spend his time at his mother's place, which is on a different floor of our apartment building, even taking baths there. At first I was frantic, wondering how to appease him. Out of fear of further upsetting him, I'd still prepare meals and get the bath ready, knowing he wouldn't use them. I'd send messages and get no reply, often staying up all night waiting for him. And in the midst of all this, my MIL would chime in with her jabs, saying things like, "I knew you were a handful, but this is something else, haha." Excuse me, why is Parker ignoring me? What could be the reason?
You're telling me you have no idea? I can't believe it. LOL.
Did I do something wrong? Are you mad at me? If you've heard anything from Parker, please tell me.
Why should I bother explaining to someone who can't see their own faults? Is it pointless?
She just laughed it off without giving an answer. After a while, when my nerves began to fail, he would say, "I'm home. I'm hungry. What's for dinner tonight?" As if nothing had happened, he would nonchalantly return home. Back then, I would feel relieved, thinking, thank goodness, he spoke to me. However, over time, I unconsciously started to walk on eggshells, always trying to please Parker and constantly gauging his mood. It was only when the new stylist, Natalie, who joined us this spring, pointed it out bluntly that I realized this. On that day, Parker was giving me the silent treatment, as usual. I hadn't had breakfast or dinner and wasn't speaking to anyone. Not wanting to waste food, I packed the leftovers into a lunch box and brought it to the store. As I was quietly eating my makeshift lunch, Natalie approached me.
Stella, did you make that lunch yourself?
Yeah. It's just leftovers from last night, though.
I know it's not my place as a newbie, and especially as it seems to be a personal matter between you and Parker, but... Do you realize that Parker is trying to control you?
What? Control me? What do you mean?
I could be wrong, but isn't Parker deliberately ignoring you?
Yeah, he is.
I thought so. I've noticed him doing it. While he's all smiles with everyone else in public, he ignores you even when you try to talk to him in the staff room. And when he thinks no one's looking, he pushes your hand away rudely. And then that lunch of yours. Grilled mackerel and meat and potatoes. It's obviously just last night's leftovers, isn't it? There's a huge difference between the colorful and nutritious lunches you usually make, and this.
When Natalie said that, she shared with me.
Actually, it was like that before my mom split from my real dad.
It seems Natalie's parents separated when she was in her freshman year of high school. And her real dad often ignored her mom, just like Parker did.
My mother used to cry because he would thoroughly ignore her as if a switch had been flipped, even though the trigger was something really small and unimportant.
I see.
And eventually, she started to constantly watch his mood and her smiles turned insincere. It's really hard to watch something like that from the side.
Then Natalie explained that the reason Parker ignores me is because he wants to control me by using silence. By ignoring me, he ensures that I constantly feel obligated to him, and he can always feel superior, probably smirking to himself about it. If you think about it, it's pretty obvious, right? Normally, if your partner is troubled or hurt, you'd be worried and it would hurt you too. But people like bossy types find pleasure in seeing their partner suffer and be anxious. It's messed up. After being firmly told this by Natalie, even when Parker would become moody and ignore me, or when my mill would join in and provoke me, I no longer felt as shaken as before. In fact, once I began to observe Parker with such eyes, all I could see was his childishness and selfishness as well as his mother's meanness, which she did not even try to correct. However, it seemed they didn't like my changed attitude, and the oppressive silence from both Parker and my mill gradually became an everyday occurrence. He'd come home whenever they felt like it and would lock themselves in their rooms. He stopped showing up to the store and the company, and essentially I was left running both all by myself. One of those days, it was an off day for the store, and I was deep cleaning the house after a long time.
I usually rely on the Roomba and Brava, but the weather's nice, so I thought I'd clean every nook and cranny today.
Thinking this, I started by cleaning the windows while playing my favorite music on my smartphone, when suddenly, Parker and my mill came into the house without a word. As they plopped down on the living room couch, they said,
Since your husband and Mill are seated right here, how about making some tea for us?
You're such an inconsiderate wife.
But thankfully, we'll be saying goodbye to you soon.
Oh, what a release.
They remarked, baffled. I reluctantly made some tea and placed it on the coffee table, to which they said,
You see, Parker has a child on the way, so we'll need you to step back and move out.
You have about 2 weeks. After that, you'll need to leave this condo.
Of course, you'll have to quit your job too. And there's no severance pay, lol.
That's what they blurted out. A child with Parker. Does that mean he cheated? And I have to move out, lose my job, and no severance pay. Even for a couple in a Cold War state, the sudden barrage of news left me with my head spinning, unable to comprehend what was happening.
His next wife is nothing like you, lol. She comes from a wealthy family and graduated from a top women's college.
Plus, she trained in Paris, the beauty capital, afterward.
There's no way you can compare, so you better give up quickly. Lol.
She's 3 months pregnant, so I want to settle things and make her feel secure as my wife soon.
That's right. I'm so excited. I'm sure we'll have a wonderful child. They rambled on.
So, being 3 months pregnant means the result of an affair, right?
Yes, so what's your point?
It's just that Sophie and I met out of order. We were truly tied by the strings of fate.
I see. And because you want to remarry your fated partner, you want me to leave?
That's what we've been saying, lol. You're so slow to catch on, lol.
Seeing the giggling attitude of Parker and my Mael made my head feel like it was about to burst. Feeling the need for some time to think, I asked them to leave.
Well, I guess it'll take time for you to wrap your head around it. Fine, Parker said, retreating to Maya Miles' room.
After that, I didn't feel like continuing the cleaning and just sat on the floor. But when I looked up, the only light in the dim room was the glowing screen of my phone. It was a call from Natalie.
Natalie?
Oh, Stella, where are you right now? Are you at home?
I responded with a simple yes, and Natalie said she'd come over right away, then hung up. About 30 minutes later, Natalie showed up holding 2 bulging eco bags.
Sorry to intrude. I just bought some random food and drinks.
Cheerfully saying that, she washed her hands and started setting out the deli food she'd purchased. After fetching glasses from the kitchen, she poured some craft beer, which she mentioned was her recent favorite, and handed me a spoon, urging, "Let's eat before it gets cold." I took a bite, and the taste of a fluffy omelet with rice filled my mouth.
It's delicious.
Told you, right? Their omelet is just divine.
She smiled brightly and said, "I got various dishes, so please savor each one." It then struck me that I hadn't eaten since having some coffee and toast that morning.
Until that point, I'd felt completely numb, but realizing I was hungry made me feel more human. Realizing I was hungry made me feel more human.
After eating silently for a while and having some beer, Natalie started.
I got a mass email from the boss saying you'll be leaving the store by the end of the month.
I told her about Parker and my mill demanding a divorce and that I leave the store.
Natalie was silent for a moment, then looked me straight in the eyes and asked, "What do you want to do, Stella?"
You mean what I want, not what I should do? It's your life, Stella. You should steer it in the direction you want. What I want, When Natalie said that, I felt surprisingly clear-headed. I should get a divorce. There's no reason to continue being a family with Parker. I want a divorce. I want to start over as soon as possible.
I responded firmly. 1 week later, Parker gave me 10 days to decide, but once I took action, everything went smoothly. I didn't have many personal belongings to begin with, so once the moving company provided me with packing boxes, I quickly packed up. I entrusted Natalie with my belongings at the store, as I didn't want to see Parker until everything was settled. Simultaneously, I had a lawyer recommended by a friend draft documents requesting alimony and asset division from Parker. I signed a lease for a place I liked, and as soon as I moved in, had the lawyer send the documents to my mill. Since I received a flurry of lines and emails from my mother-in-law and Parker at about the same time that those sealed letters arrived, my lawyer decided to propose a meeting at the office. Day of the meeting. Waiting at the lawyer's office at the appointed time, a grinning Parker, my mill, and a young woman walked in. The lawyer asked the woman, "May I ask who you are?" Before she could reply, my mill proudly said, "This is Sophie, the woman who'll become Parker's wife once he's divorced from you, Lo." Once the divorce papers with Stella filed, I plan to submit the marriage papers with Sophie immediately, Lo, Parker added, beaming. To me, it was an irrelevant matter, so I only inquired if they'd agree to my terms. "Yeah, think of it as a settlement. I'll pay what you're asking," Parker said. I didn't think it was necessary, but Parker's such a generous guy, Sophie added with a smirk. "He probably figured you'd need money being alone for the rest of your life. Lo," my mill sneered. She then presented the full amount I'd asked for in cash, sealed in a bank envelope. I filled out and stamped my section of the divorce papers and handed them over. As a parting shot, I said, "I assume we'll never meet again. But just to be clear, no matter what happens in the future, I won't be there to help either of you."
Is that your last word?
Okay, we get it. You're bitter. No need to lash out, lol, Sophie said, joining the laughter, and the three of them left the lawyer's office.
About 1 year later, I currently work as a top stylist at a hair salon in the city center. My assistant, starting last month, is Natalie. After deciding to divorce Parker at the lawyer's office, I immediately began job hunting. I'd won several competitions and had been featured as a popular stylist on a beauty website, so I easily found a new job. I lived comfortably without touching the alimony or assets. Furthermore, I began dating a man I met at a joint training session with my current salon's affiliate. Surprisingly, I feel free and content every day.
So where are you going on your next date? Natalie teased.
Then, don't mock your senior.
Even after I left Parker's shop, Natalie continued working there for a while. In fact, Natalie said, "I'll quit right away." But I was the one who persuaded her. I had two reasons. Firstly, leaving so soon might make it seem like Natalie wasn't a team player or wasn't patient. Secondly, I was worried that Parker and my mill might target Natalie if she left with me.
So reluctantly, Natalie stayed.
According to her, the subsequent drama involving Parker, my mill, and Sophie was like a roller coaster. Apparently, Sophie, having been all smug upon her arrival at the shop post my departure, only lasted a day. Turns out, one of the male staff members who'd worked directly under me was a former classmate of Sophie's from a beauty school in another state. Sophie, unaware, made a grand entrance into the salon with Parker, flaunting her Paris-trained hairstylist title.
Oh? You said you're back from Paris, and I was expecting someone impressive. Turns out it's just you, Sophie. Lo.
Eh? Leonard, why are you here?
Same question to you. Man, this is a surprise. You struggled a lot with the written exams and always got scolded by the teachers. So Sophie, who repeatedly flunked her years, went to Paris.
It's not like that, okay? I mean, right, Sophie?
Well,
You need a French hairstylist license to work in Paris, right? How did you become fluent in French out of the blue? No.
Of course, she studied it in college.
College? Wow. The Sophie who struggled with even basic English in beauty school now says this? She was so shocked that her skin was peeled off her face.
What followed was a loud, heated argument between Mill, Sophie, and Parker, which escalated to the point where the police were called. The staff began to leave one by one. As the salon lost its vigor, customers dwindled, quickly leading to business troubles. They had to close 2 branches and tried to revive the original salon. But it was too late and they closed down last month.
That sounds so tough.
Truly. But thanks to that, I got to leave on company terms, made my job interviews here go smoothly.
I'm glad we're working together again, but why this salon?
Obviously, to learn from the skills of Stella.
Got it. I'll train you well.
Sometime after Natalie joined, I received a letter from Parker and Milvey, the lawyer I'd hired for the divorce. They had no other way to reach me, as I'd cut off all communication and even my parents had rejected them. The letter read,
We were deceived by Sophie. She wasn't pregnant, and her entire background was a lie. Instead of running the salon in your stead, she took all our money and vanished. We lost the salon and the apartment we'd used as collateral. Our only hope is you, Stella. We believe in your kindness and hope you'll help us in our time of need. Please contact us soon.
After skimming it, I called the lawyer and said,
Why should I care?
I then requested not to be contacted regarding them again. Indeed, as Natalie had once told me, life after I took charge had been on an upswing.